Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike is on a plane, so he'll jump in shortly. He's actually in the airport trying to connect, so we'll get him in there. We have AD Drew join us. BJ Jones is literally on the road, so AD Drew is going to do what he does to make sure we get everything going. Let me start out first asking everybody, how you doing, Charles?
We're maintaining. it is
too much homecoming, brother.
It is post homecoming Sunday, so you know how that goes. So
no doubt. You know the song say, you know, if you don't win, you be quiet as a mouse. Yours might be different. If you had
mine might be a little different. Exactly.
Yeah, you had too much homecoming. You still quiet as a mouse.
Oh my goodness! I got stuff falling. It's fun over here.
But let me go to Drew while you taking care of that. Drew, how you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing fine, my brother. Doing fine. And you know, speaking of homecoming, I was just thinking about something. I have never, and I'm ashamed to say this, I have never been to a homecoming parade. Just as a participant.
That's deep.
Obviously, when I was a student, I was in that you know, post-party mode. I wasn't no way in heck I was getting up at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning to go watch somebody in a parade. I participated.
I will share this with you, which is a great point. Yeah. I've gotten up for the parade now that I have the son, you know, so I had to do it now. But there was a couple of times where the parade will watch me.
Yeah.
To your point.
Yeah. And I've actually participated
in the same space that the parade was coming, you know, so it would watch me, it literally get me up. I'm like, oh, the parade, hey.
Yeah.
I do the little wave with them because
I've participated in multiple parades, but I have never actually just been in the crowd for a parade.
Man, that's cool. That's cool. It is homecoming season. It's officially wide around. So welcome to episode 194 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast. The show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports from institutions large and small. From the NEIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture. As we just talked about homecoming, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic program, the game, and the business of HBCU sports, everything that goes in the bowl. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Coming in today is AD Drew. We are filming from our home studios and sending signal live to our KCWH 1230 AM studios, as we always do. We're in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. As you know, today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. With that being said, let me jump in here and get these scores, and then I'll get some thoughts to you. Things are tightening up where they're supposed to be. We're starting to find out some things. So Southern shuts out Arkansas Pine Bluffs at homecoming scoreless. That's got to hurt. 34-0. FAMU gets it done against Alabama A&M in an epic come from behind win, scoring 19 points in the fourth quarter. They win 35-31. Big run in that game by the running back. Pittsburgh State defeats Lincoln 59-7. Prairie View gets it done on the road, the first for this trip of the conference right now. Prairie View goes to Daytona Beach and gets it done 35-29. You have Bowie State. The Bulldogs get out in a shootout, and they find a way to get it done, 51-44. That was on Aspire TV, so I got to watch that. Tuskegee shuts out Central State 29-0. That's crucial in terms of that West. They I mean, at East, they keep saying we're not dead yet. Virginia Union upset Shawan. Shawan was top 25 team, 38-31. I guess Shawan was still reeling from Bowie State. Lincoln, Pennsylvania beats up on Elizabeth City State 17-14. Gets it done. Big first win of the season. Shaw defeats Livingstone 20-9. Winston-Salem State shuts out St. Augustine 41-0. So I guess they get right. Grambling State gets back on the winning track as they defeat Texas Southern 34-20. That was a homecoming game there. Jackson State in their homecoming affair beats Alabama State 28-7. Workmanlike win in that game. Miles defeats Lane 34-31. So Miles says, we're not dead yet. Langston gets a big win at the top of the division for a showdown now next week, but they take the first step as they defeat Texas Wesleyan 42-31. Tennessee State in overtime defeats Tennessee Tech 20-13. Big win by the Tigers there. Albany State defeats Benedict 28-6. Fayetteville State just drums up on Johnson C. Smith 55-12. Morehouse defeats Fort Valley for what many see as a big upset, 51-3.
Whoa.
Norfolk State, for their homecoming, they get it done against Virginia Lynchburg 42-14. Alcorn State holds off Mississippi Valley 24-12. Workmanlike win there. Kentucky State, I'm not sure how you describe this game, 76 defeating Edward Waters 36.
That's a six-pack
Savannah State.
Coach.
Savannah State 49, Clark Atlanta 14. South Carolina State, Morgan State 38-14. Bluefield loses as Erskine comes from behind late in that game and defeats Bluefield State 24-19. A&T talked all the noise, but didn't bring the smoke as they lose to Kennesaw State 14-0. They get shut out. Wow. Texas College loses to Leon as they were going that close to getting their first win. They lose 33-32. Ooh. Charleston Southern takes it to Hampton 35-5. West Virginia State loses a squeaker to UNC Pembroke 14-13. So those are some of the scores. Let me go to you, Charles, as Mike tries to come in and out working on the Wi-Fi. Thought we snuck him in there. But Charles, what are your thoughts? Any scores stand out to you?
Definitely when you take a look at Florida A&M and Alabama A&M, that was a huge one yesterday, but huge for rallies, 19 fourth quarter points. You don't see that very often when you take a look at a team getting it done like that in the fourth quarter. I think, for me, take a look at the SWAC games in particular, Southern and UAPB. I think Southern's defense needed that sort of tonic that was UAPB's offense yesterday because, all I saw was hashtags, we chasing Jason. So I'm like, well, hey, wait, off the ledge, Jags. But good win yesterday. And then Alcorn, they were able to kind of stunt that Mississippi Valley State momentum. Nico Duffy being able to get off yesterday for another 100-yard game for him. So that was huge for the Braves to kind of keep that momentum going and keep Valley off the rails, because that was a game that I think a lot of people were paying a close attention to yesterday. So you had all those great games. Then of course I was at Jackson State game, and like you said, it was a workmanlike performance. 7-7 game at halftime, but Jackson State kicked it into gear. One of the things that really stands out with regards to that Jackson State game, no panic from the team. It was simply a situation where they knew what needed to get done, and they proceeded to put their foot on the gas in the second half and was able to close out a very game Alabama State team who I thought had a tremendous defensive performance in the first half of that game.
Good point. A.D. Drew, any scores stand out to you?
Well, yesterday, everything pretty much went chalk, except for in the CIAA, where you had two things that could be considered mild upsets. Lincoln, PA got their first victory on the season, defeating Elizabeth City State. Yes, traditionally, these are the bottom two teams in the Northern Division of the CIAA. But if you looked at it before the game, yeah, Elizabeth City was going to get the victory, especially considering the fact that they got that victory earlier this season over a Virginia State. So you expected Elizabeth City to handle business despite being on the road. And Union defeating Shawan. Just when you had talk about the CIAA possibly being able to sneak a second team into the Division II playoffs, with that being Shawan losing to Bowie, with the game being as close and competitive as it was to Bowie, where they looked like they had a little Bowie hangover, no pun intended, Charles. So that they had a little bit of a hangover and did not take care of business against the Virginia Union team most thought that they would defeat. So other than that, everything else was pretty much chalk. And especially when you talk about that 6-pack of whoop that Kentucky State put on Edward Waters there.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. Good terminology, because I didn't know what to call it, but that was certainly a 6-pack in multiple ways. I think to some degree that Kennesaw State shutting out A&T was a little surprise to me. Not necessarily that Kennesaw State won the game, but to do it in the fashion they did was a little bit of a surprise to me. But great points on all in terms of what you just said there. With that, let's get into our first break. This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service with Slow Burn. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge featuring a meticulous curated collection of premium cigars. It's more than a mobile lounge. It's an environment and an experience rich in history, luxury, and personality. An elegant extension of any celebration occasion. It's the perfect escape and meeting place. A space where you can relax or enjoy a shared passion. Have Slow Burn plan your next big event, or before you are planning to celebrate your win over your athletic rival, you can shop our collections at www.slowburnwaco.com.
But if they want to tab, I'ma do the dab, yeah. Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna love, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab. We got Coach Eric Dooley, Prairie View A&M University, signing in, so we'll get that straight there. But I did want to talk a little bit about homecoming. So we're going to end up showing you a picture with the 58,000 people plus in attendance. That was amazing, Charles. It's my understanding that's largest crowd for homecoming.
Yeah. It was a tremendous environment over in Jackson yesterday. You talk about 53,000 people in the stands and probably another 20,000, in the tailgate area. But it was just phenomenal, and it was phenomenal, I think, for this generation of Jackson State fan that might not have seen this. They've seen the pictures, they've seen the videos, but to actually experience this SWAC championship generation, to get an opportunity to really, fester in this Jackson State atmosphere of winning football. So it was good to see that yesterday, a really packed house in the vet.
Yeah, that's enough of our Jackson State talk today, because we have none other than
How you doing, Coach?
How you guys doing?
You like that, Coach? Yeah, we stuck that in. All right, Prairie View A&M University football coach Eric Dooley. It's glad to have you. Thank you for taking time out of your Sunday morning. I know you have engagements and you're getting prepared for church. So we appreciate you taking out this short time to talk about the game that you had, longest road trip in the conference now. You go over, debut on the road trip, getting into Bethune-Cookman. Talk about that trip as well as the game there, if you would, Coach.
Well, you know, it's never exciting and something that you want to experience when you know you have a long road trip. You know, thank God that our administrator was able to let us fly in. We flew in the day before, so the flight was a little different. But you know, you get an opportunity to come now and play some football with a dangerous football team. And I'm not saying they are dangerous because they hadn't won a game, because I know they're a good football team and I know they football head coach. So, you know, within this conference, you don't have an opportunity to rest on any game. So we knew it was going to be a hard-fought contest, but just for our guys to rebound and come back and play hard for 60 minutes, you know, I commend my guys.
Thank you, Coach, for that introduction. Let me let Charles Bishop come in and ask you a follow-up question.
Yeah, well, Coach, I wanted to follow up. First and foremost, congratulations on the win yesterday. But I did want to follow up on, you mentioned Bethune-Cookman being a dangerous team and their record not showing exactly who they are. But I was curious with this Bethune-Cookman team, great running back in Quishawn Bird, but just what did they bring to the table? Because I know they're more dangerous than what their record says they are.
You know, I think they bring to the table the no-quit attitude. You know, you're going to have to play for 60 minutes to play for the guy. And, you know, more importantly, they're fundamentally sound. You know, just sometimes things happen and just don't go your way. And I think he's caught up into that. But for us having a good football team and having them prepared, that's not good.
Let me ask AD Drew to follow up with his question.
First of all, Coach, full disclosure, I am a Florida A&M Rattler. So we're hoping that Bethune goes 0 for the A&Ms in the SWAC. Have it lost to you guys and have it lost to Alabama A&M. We just need them to lose to that third A&M. Just wanted to throw that in from a personal point of view. But no, seriously, Coach, what's the sauce this year? You know, you guys are a game and a half clear of everybody in the West as of right now. What has been the sauce? What has been the secret this year versus some of the starts that you have gotten in the past couple of years since you have been there at A&M, Coach?
You know, experience is good, always good when you bring guys back and guys familiar with what your system is when you're talking about in all three phases, and guys been able to play together for a number of years. That makes a huge difference. And then, you know, you add some little pieces of that puzzle in, guys that fit, you know, because everybody just don't fit. Although they're exceptional athletes, everybody just don't have that fit to work inside the locker room. But you know, hats off to my assistant coaches. They went out there and got some guys that did fit what we were trying to do. Right now, I just think our guys are just playing fundamentally football and playing with a no-quit attitude for 60 minutes, you know. And I must say, you know, some balls have bounced our way. So we just continue to just work hard and correct those mistakes that we're making. And, you know, it's always good to make those corrections with the win.
Yeah, to your point, Coach, this team is playing really solid. I want to give a shout out to AD Drew and give him a little bit of credit. He's modest on this. He did state at the very beginning of the season, his team to come out of the West was none other than Prairie View A&M University. So it's working to form. I have a big game this weekend, but before we get into that, let me let the 3P tailgater, Mike Washington, ask a question as well, as he's literally in the airport traveling.
Yeah, good evening. Good morning. I'm sorry, Dr. Cavil.
You don't know what time it is. Well, I tell you.
on the road covering the Jackson State game. But Coach Dooley, let me first say congratulations, tough road victory. It seemed like it was a rough battle back and forth. The offense showed great balance. My question is, can you talk to us about the maturation of your offense and Juwan Pass and how he's getting more and more comfortable and integrated and settled into this offense as the season matures? Can you tell us your thoughts on that and how you feel going into a couple of other tough matchups with Alcorn and Southern, which have yet to be played?
First of all, let me say I love your jacket. That's to everyone on this call. I love that jacket. It looks real good.
hey, Coach, can you tell AD Drew that one more time?
Jack,
Look, there's only one A&M that I'm gonna wear. I just want y'all to know that.
well, I think the young man is very, very experienced. He came in with playing 11 football games at transfer. So he's not coming in a lack of experience. And then he came into an experienced ball club that understood that we're not trying to change the team. We're bringing someone in that can help. But the leadership and just the pause that he brought in, and the maturity, it spoke volume. Not just with him, but just other guys that we're able to, go out and get. It's so good to go get transfers, and I'm pretty sure all the coaches will allude to it. But when you get that transfer, that's that perfect fit. Every puzzle don't fit. That's why they give you a jigsaw puzzle. You got to put those pieces together. I think fortunate enough we've been able to put the right pieces together thus far. It's still a long season for us. The thing that we're doing, we're kind of one game at a time. So it's a lot of great football teams in this conference. Of course, the record is not going to show it because somebody got to win and somebody got to lose. But it's far from over, and we know that, and we just got to keep working.
Thank you for that, Mike. In terms of that question there, let me shift to moving forward to your matchup coming up this week. A lot of people anticipated this matchup in terms of Southern. In terms of history, if you would, other than what happened in the spring with Pine Bluff coming out of the West, since 2009 and 2010, it seems like it's always been Grambling and Southern. You've been able to go to the State Fair Classic as well, I should say, the Labor Day Classic, and really get the team to take care of business. Now it seems like that next hurdle may be Southern University. Talk a little bit about this matchup as you see it, Coach.
It's a huge matchup, no question about it. You're talking about in the West. It's always been tight. Ever since I've been playing in this conference, it's tough in the West. But now it's tough in the entire Southwestern Athletic Conference. But this is a huge matchup for us, and we know that this team is going to be prepared to play. It's not the situation. I know they had an opportunity to drop one against Texas Southern, but you saw how they rebound real fast against the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff team. So we know we have a challenge for it. We know it's going to be a hostile crowd. You're talking about homecoming. So whether it was homecoming or not, it was going to be a full stadium. So we know we just got to get prepared and be ready to play and just go down and take care of business.
Charles, let me let you ask a follow-up question as well.
Yeah, well, when you preview this game, Coach, just talk a little bit about what you think your team needs to do to try to get this victory this upcoming week.
Well, when you take a look at some things that they did on yesterday, you got to stop the run. They had one guy that had 267 yards rushing. So, that's something that they do well. And they lead the conference in the rushing stats as well. So we know that's going to be a challenge for us. And then when you talk about they play exciting, explosive defense play, those guys been playing defense even with Coach Odom there. Now you still have Lionel Washington that's been the defensive coordinator for a while. And Coach Rollins is taking over, and he's a defensive-minded guy. So I know those guys are going to make sure that the defense is playing great. And then you look at the special team. They always have a guy that can return, guys that do great things, and they play exciting football. So the challenges is, just as I stated when the season started, it didn't matter who we play. I don't even look at the names. I just know it's going to be a challenge for us because I love where our conference is right now.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Coach.
AD Drew, you can follow up as well.
All right, Coach. We know the coach speak that, we take one game at a time. We look to go 1-0 every week. But I look down at your schedule, and you got Southern this week. You got Alabama State. Then you've got that Alcorn matchup before you go play that other agricultural school in your state. I forgot the name of them. But how do you go and keep your kids focused on the game that's at hand for this week and not get them looking ahead? Because as it pans out, the Alcorn Prairie View game could be for the West Side, Coach.
How just like this here, I don't even know who the other games are. We play Southern University on October 23rd. That's the only game we have. That's the only game we focus on. That's the only game we should be focused on. I'm a guy that I've always been that way. Even in just being offensive coordinator, I don't even look at the other games until that time because I don't want to see anything. Only thing I need to see is just what's in front of us. And I know it does sound like a cliche speech, but that's what I believe in, one game at a time, because that's what you have to do. You can't look forward for something that's not there. You got to take care of business of the things that's at hand right now. So we pride our guys on that. What's important right now, we have that acronym WIN. And it's not just about winning. What's important now? What's important now is Southern University preparing for them. That's going to be a huge challenge for us.
Mike, go ahead with your follow-up question as well, please.
Yes, Coach. And again, forgive me if you for the background. As Dr. Cavil said, I am in the airport. So AD Drew asked the question, what are you going to do to get prepared? What are some things that you feel that Southern Alcorn do well that you really need to tweak in order to prepare? Let me ask that question in a different way, if you will. You mentioned the run, and they are leading the SWAC and run, and so is Alcorn. So what specifically on defense do you feel you need to tweak, if I may ask that question, without you giving out any secret sauce?
Well, I'll say this here. What we need to do to stop Southern University run, we got to play fast and physical. We got to play relentlessly. We got to make sure that we tackle. You can't hide just chest bumps. We got to tackle. We got to wrap up and tackle. Then the guys got to have 11 hats to the football. And we just got to play our brand of football, which is 11 hats to the football, playing fast and physical for 60 minutes.
Thank you, Coach. I promise I'll let you out of here, and I appreciate you giving us a glimpse of insight in terms of the big win against Bethune-Cookman, and then an early matchup, early inclination of what's going to take place in this matchup this Saturday with the game against Southern. Before I let you go, is any last thing that you wanted to say that we didn't ask you, or do you just want to get out to the Prairie View faithful?
I appreciate you guys for having me. I think it's always exciting when you get opportunity to talk about your school, your team. So it's exciting for me. And then it's even more exciting to know that Charles was on a call. So I had the opportunity to speak and talk a little Prairie View football. So we're very excited. It looks like an all SWAC team right here, but I love it. That's what it's all about, the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
No doubt about it, Coach. Have a great day.
Thank you, Coach.
As you can see, as I know you always do, say a prayer for a little bit of all of us.
Dr. Cavil.
Yes.
If I may, Coach still has a reputation as right now being the best dressed coach.
Oh, he's clean. We know he's getting there.
He is clean. He is cleaner than the board.
We can't be playing that. We know where that goes. Right here on the Prairie View A&M, the true hill. That's where it go down. We got none other than Coach Eric Dooley. Best dressed. He's getting it done. And the record is reflecting just how clean he is. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate it, Coach.
All right.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Coach Eric Dooley as they get prepared for a big matchup coming up this week after they got a big win to stay undefeated in the divisional race as things are tightening up, getting stronger in terms of those teams at the top. In terms of division, at least for the West. We saw it kind of play out early for the East. Now it looks like it's shifting to the West, and we'll see how it plays up as we have a collision course for the team coming out of the East, for the team coming out of the West. It should be interesting. Stick with us, and we'll get back into some of these other matchups. This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Stick with us.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together we can be the change.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Mike Washington inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Dr. Cavil, Charles Bishop, and I got the cook. Who's the cook?
Cook, AJ, Fred, Trick.
What we got on the grill?
Oh man, we doing it up now. We done pulled out these nice ribs.
We got some right here with them chopped up, ready for the eat.
Oh yeah, look at that, falling off the bone.
So good, you don't need no barbecue sauce.
That's real barbecue.
You don't need no barbecue.
If you don't need barbecue sauce, absolutely. Look at that. What you got over there in the big pot right there?
Oh man, that's Fred,
what you got, Fred?
We got corn, potatoes, we got some sausage, we got neck bones, we got turkey legs.
Oh man, and that's how you do it here in Jackson State.
We got a little secret.
Oh, what's the secret? Not that. What's the secret?
We send them trash cans on fire.
Oh,
look out in there.
Hold on. Stop.
Down at the bottom though. Look there, let's say. Turkey legs.
Oh, turkey legs at the bottom. Oh my goodness. And there you have it. Mike Washington inside the HBCU Sports Lab, covering the best tailgaters in the SWAC.
Oh, that was nice. Yeah, you got Charles Bishop sitting up there like a Chester cheetah cat, man.
I'm gonna tell you, y'all wrong for playing that video this early in the morning because a brother has not had breakfast yet, and my mouth is watering over here looking at that, man.
Yeah, man.
Oh, I agree with you. That was good. Well, Mike, let me go to you and just ask you, since you debuted that video, tell quick a little bit about your experience getting out to Jackson and just your thoughts in general.
Yeah, so one of the things I like to do is, as you and Charles know, is rate the tailgating scene. And there's a couple of criteria I use. One is creativity, number of RVs, how long they've been staying there, what are the different elements. Do they have stages or small concerts? And I knew that Jackson State could tailgate. But I text CB, I was like, I think I text you, Doc. They moved up well into the top 5 from my perspective of tailgate.
You did.
So that 55-gallon drum, that was creativity. They took a 55-gallon drum and put layers in it and put the turkey legs in the bottom, and then they put the ribs on the top. That is creativity. That's one of the elements in a tailgate. And plus, it was just good fellowship. But hats off to the Jackson State folks. Terrific tailgating scene. I'm not saying they're the best, but they are well up in their top 5 for sure.
Great report.
I'll take that.
Great report. So y'all know, as Mike comes around, he will travel. He was a Celebration Bowl earlier, so we'll play that. Actually, me SWAC Challenge, we'll play it in the Celebration Bowl segment. But Mike will get around, so don't be surprised if he shows up. He puts you on camera. Go ahead and make sure you answer because it's big time. Go ahead, Charles.
And watch this, Dr. Cavil. Let me show you how Jackson State fan really is. If Mike says we're in the top 5, if Jackson State gets to the Celebration Bowl, you're going to have people inboxing Mike, hey, we want to be number 1. So I can tell him that's going to happen now.
Hey, Mike,
that's when you know you're a true tailgater, when your tailgate travels to other cities.
Yeah, exactly. That's when you know.
Exactly.
Well,
that's another factor when your tailgate travel. Exactly.
Yeah, I like that. Plus, they need to make sure they give you a plate. That's one way to make sure that you get higher ranked. You can't show off everything. You don't offer no plate. That's part of it too, the collegiality. The culture is the step. With that being said, let's get back into it and get into some of these matchups, these great matchups. Let's go into some of these mid-major matchups as we talk about. Wasn't the classic of the week, so we got into a homecoming of the week since we're talking about some homecoming. Let's do the mid-major homecoming game of the week. It was Clark Atlanta Panthers, 2-4 in the season now as they lost 0-2, but they represented themselves well after a win last week, got on the board. But number 3, Savannah State Tigers, 5-1, 3-0. They got it done as they handled Clark Atlanta Panthers, and they set up now a big matchup. We can talk about both of these, a top 5 matchup, basically 3 versus 4 with Savannah State and Albany State, which will go a long way, if not close out who's going to win the Eastern Division for the championship. I'm going to stick with A.D. Drew, one of our resident SIAC football analysts and experts on here. What are your thoughts in terms of that matchup, in terms of Savannah State, Clark Atlanta, then going into the Savannah State, Albany State matchup as well?
You know, first of all, Savannah State is a scary team for Clark Atlanta. And what do I mean by a scary team? They opened the game great. They finished the half great. The third quarter has been lagging for Savannah State all year, but they still come out and they dominate, and they dominate their opponents, all except the one, Valdosta State, in the other 3 quarters. Question is, can they get away with that formula against an Albany State? Because Albany State, top 20, one of the top defenses, not in the SIAC, but in Division II, period. So how is Savannah State going to match up and put together a complete game? Because if Savannah State puts together a complete game, they can beat Albany State. But the fact that I have not seen Savannah State put together a complete game, that matchup that we're talking about that's upcoming, you have to lean towards Albany State, because I have seen Albany State put together 4 quarters.
I love it. Top 5 matchup next week. Before we get into that, and I shift it to you, Charles, tell me your thoughts in terms of what Langston Lions were able to do against a formidable foe, Texas Wesleyan Rams, that was 1 loss on the season at the top of the conference. You have Langston beating Texas Wesleyan 42-31. Great homecoming victory for Langston. But now they got to go to Arizona, and they fight off against another undefeated team this weekend. So talk about either one of those matchups in terms of the mid-major game, your thoughts on either of those games that passed or what's coming up this week in terms of the mid-major division, if you would, Charles.
I'm looking forward to the Albany State Savannah State game. I think that's going to be a tremendous game. AD touched on it with Savannah State. If they can get away with having that lag quarter, because Albany State is just balanced. You take a look at them, what they do from an offensive standpoint and from a defensive standpoint. They really are a tough team to prepare for, and you just can't have those down quarters. One of the things that I've caught with regards to listening to Coach Prime talk about winning the quarter, and I think that's one of those things that AD touched on in terms of having that down quarter, and is it one of those situations where it can eventually catch you up. So, that was great insight on that, AD, in regards to Savannah State and Albany State. Langston just continues to do it week in, week out. That was a formidable opponent in Texas Wesleyan, and for Langston to continue to keep the bus rolling, if you will, that was tremendous on their part. So, a lot of great action over there in Division II ranks this past week. I'm still catching up on scores. I know one that caught my eye was Virginia Union and Chowan. I was not expecting Virginia Union to get that W in there on the road at Chowan. So hats off to them. And the Bowie State, Virginia State shootout. Bowie State that has that tremendous defense, but I tell you what, Virginia State put a scare on them with 21 points there in the 4th quarter. So 51-44 game for Bowie State, Virginia State. So those are some games that really caught my eye as I was in my post-Jackson State something yesterday.
Something?
Yeah, something.
To your point, in both cases, that big win by Virginia Union over Chowan now sets up a Bowie State Virginia Union matchup this week that we can get in a little more throughout the week.
Yeah.
But going to Mike, to your point, is the other game that sets up the one that I asked Drew about, which is now the Savannah State and Albany State. The reason you have that matchup of undefeated teams is Albany State got it done. The Golden Rams, 6-1, 3-0, defeat number 9 Benedict Tigers, a top 10 matchup. So Albany State is playing some of these top 10 teams as the East, I should say, of the SWC is loaded. Well, they get it done 28-6. It was interesting because at half it was 9-6. It was a game. They shut them out for the second half in terms of getting it done against the Tigers of Benedict. Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of this Albany State Benedict score and then leading into what now becomes the serious matchup between Savannah State and Albany State? Albany State has many people thought this season's favorite, but coming into the season with Savannah State. So it's matching up to a classic game, if you would.
Well, first things first, I was at the Jackson State homecoming, and to let you know how dedicated these fans were, a couple of them recognized me. They knew Charles Bishop, and they knew I worked with Charles Bishop, and they said, "Hey, man, let me correct you on a few things. It's not Alcorn, it's Alcorn." Because he was married to somebody from Alcorn. And when you say Albany, if you have a wife, you should know it's Albany. So I just want to make sure I say that correctly on the show. Jackson State fans.
Point well made. With that being said.
Albany has a defense that is not talked about as much. And I look forward to that matchup. I echo the points that CB and AD were talking about with Savannah State's letdown. I'm not as concerned about that. They have a pretty efficient offense that's getting more prolific by the game. They are my pick to come out of the SIAC. But that will be an interesting game. Can Albany's defense really put a stop or put a chokehold on that offense? A classic good defense versus a good offense. Not that Albany State doesn't have an offense. They're second or third in the rush, second or third in the pass in SIAC. But that Savannah State offense is something else. And they've been able to put some points on the board when they needed to. So I really look forward to that. And Langston, I've given you lots of grief over Langston, but this was the game we said, all right, here's their first real tough competition in their schedule. And they were able to successfully do it. So I am now a Langston fan.
Great point. Finally got Mike over the field on Langston. I like it. You get that, AD Drew? That was right.
Yes, sir. We've been trying to get you over to the dark side. Hey, quick point before you go to break, Doc.
Quick.
I'm gonna make this quick. This game, watch the Division II regional rankings after this Albany State Savannah game. Right now, Albany is in there, and if Savannah wins, based on Savannah's strength of schedule and a few other things, there's a chance the SIAC could be left out of the playoffs. So if you want to see a SIAC and a CIAA team, you almost want Savannah to win. Or I'm gonna take it one step further. Savannah win could leave Albany in, bump Savannah in, and possibly bump out a CIAA team out of the playoffs. It's gonna be real interesting over these next couple of weeks how that region plays out in the Division II rankings.
Great point. Thanks for sharing this. Dr. Bill, inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We'll be right back for our last fourth quarter as we get into the major division matchups that we focused on this week and tell you some upcoming games. I know one you already know coming up this next week. But with that being said, let's get into it as we get to this break, and we'll be right back for the fourth quarter. The stretch is in. 4 fingers, baby.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've gotta
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab into the fourth quarter, the last matchup as we get into it, as we got Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, AD Drew breaking down the weekend games that we had. It is getting interesting before we get into teasing some games out to watch this week. Next week, I should say, this week games. We'll stay with this homecoming theme. Grambling, Louisiana, Eddie G. Robinson Memorial Stadium. Texas Southern had the big win against Southern. Could they take care of both Louisiana teams? No, it was not to be. Grambling State Tigers improved to 3-4, 2-2 in the conference race, while Texas Southern falls to 1-4, 1-2 in the conference race. Grambling defeats Texas Southern 34-20. A lot of penalties in that game for Texas Southern that kind of derailed any real chance they have. Let me stick with you, AD Drew, in terms of what were your thoughts in terms of this matchup and the fact Texas Southern now comes home to play a couple of
games. We just talked about this at break. I was looking at another game. You just said Texas Southern and who?
I do give y'all a script. Let me go into Charles and we'll come back to you as you break it down.
Please,
Charles,
I was immersed in looking at stats from another game.
No problem. We'll get into another game, which I'm sure is A&T and Kennesaw State. That's coming up next. But with that being said, Charles, what were your thoughts and breakdowns on the Grambling Texas Southern game?
Yeah, really, I was really intrigued by the freshman phenoms, Noah Biden and Andrew Body for both teams, and what would be the keys to this game. And as you saw with this game, it was turnovers, Texas Southern's turnovers, and it's been one of those bugaboos that when they aren't able to overcome themselves, it is what has derailed them. So it has been refreshing to see them over the past couple of weeks, to not have those killer mistakes, but those mistakes kind of came back to haunt them. Big 17-point fourth quarter for Grambling in this game, but Grambling got it done. You got to protect those home wins, got to protect homecoming. And they were able to get it done against Texas Southern.
Yeah, that 17 points in the fourth quarter ultimately becomes the difference in the game. Let me go to Mike. Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of the Grambling Tiger Texas Southern matchup? And you can throw in some thoughts on number 6 North Carolina A&T on the road, getting shut out to Kennesaw State 14-0, top 20 team at the FCS level.
Yeah, so first on the Texas Southern thing, I think everyone has touched on it. I mean, I think they had like 9 penalties for, I think it was north of 150 yards, and I don't think Grambling had any penalties. Texas Southern also had 3 turnovers. Grambling had 4. But here's the thing that I'm scratching my head at, I believe Texas Southern had way more offensive output than Grambling, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And this was their chance. I personally thought that they would have a better showing and had a chance to pull this game out. But unfortunately, you can't do anything with, 9 penalties and 3 turnovers. It's just tough to win like that. And that makes it tougher because I believe they have Alcorn and Southern coming up, which Alcorn has found its secret sauce. Southern has found that it can run. So it's going to be really tough on Texas Southern. The one bright spot is Andrew Bodie continues to play really well. But we'll see how they perform against Southern and Alcorn coming up. But it's not looking too up too good for Texas Southern. And then as far as North Carolina A&T, I thought Kennesaw State would win. I didn't think it would be a shutout.
Right.
North Carolina, yeah. So they had some good output, but I didn't think they would get shut out.
Yeah, great point. And we get an update for folks jump on you. Southern did get the win over. I mean, Texas Southern got the win over Southern. So you're talking about Albany. I mean, Alcorn State.
Yeah,
as you would say, and they have Pine Bluff coming up. In terms of
I'm sorry,
games
yeah,
at
Pine
home.
Bluff.
Let me go to you, AD Drew, in terms of your thoughts on those two matchups.
Kennesaw State, North Carolina A&T. First of all, if you're a North Carolina A&T player, you got to be disappointed when you're only playing in front of 9,000 fans on a consistent basis. When you came from the BAC, where you were playing in front of 15,000, 20,000 fans on a consistent basis. And you would have thought with the game being in the metro Atlanta area, you may have had a little bit of a bump in attendance for at Kennesaw State. Don't know what their average attendance is minus the A&T game. I'll look that up, but it was just under 10,000 for this particular game. Now, you talked about the game and why they got shut out, Mike. Anytime your punter has more yards off of his foot than you have as a total team, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose. As the punter punted for over 200 yards, and the team only got 170 yards of total offense. Not a formula for success in most football games. I'm just saying, So
yeah, I love the point, but you're right. You punt for more yards than you have total offense. That's not a recipe for success.
No. But when you go down and look at it, in the fourth quarter of this game, there was a play where A&T was driving. I believe they were in the red zone and got stopped on that fourth down play where, and we've seen this, the referees pulled out the sticks on A&T instead of eyeballing it and like they do most of the time, just giving them the first down. They actually pulled out the sticks, took the measurement, and A&T was short. Then when Kennesaw got the ball back on the next drive, a similar type play, they just eyeballed it. First down, let's get the clock ran out and let's get the hell up out of here. I'm just saying, welcome to the Big South, North Carolina A&T. Welcome to historically white college football as the spot in the conference. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Oh, that's so true. Charles, let me go back to you and give you a chance to talk about this A&T, as well as the big win by Tennessee State, top 10 team, number 9 this week in my poll, getting it done against Tennessee Tech. I told everybody I had an eye on this because Tennessee Tech really beat up on North Carolina Central. So I wanted to see how Tennessee State was turning the curve. Also, the value that win does for Jackson State with the win they had over Tennessee State. So I wanted you to kind of talk about both of those matchups. Tennessee State wins it in overtime, 20-13, as they score late to send it to overtime, and then they get it done as you look at that matchup. And then obviously the shutout by the Aggies to Kennesaw State. Talk about those two games, if you would, Charles.
Yeah, as far as North Carolina A&T and Kennesaw State, that was a surprising. I was not expecting A&T to get shut out in that game. That really kind of caught my eye. A&T, tremendous football that they played over the past few years, and to see that shutout, that welcome to the Big South moment. I was not expecting that. To your point with regards to Tennessee State, great win in overtime, and like you said, I think that bolsters Jackson State's win over Tennessee State. What we're starting to see now is this Tennessee State that they seem to be gelling a little bit more under Eddie George. Jeremy Hickbottom is playing some pretty good football. When you take a look at his stats, he's 20-34, 256 yards, and a couple of touchdowns. But they got that running game up and going a little bit more yesterday, 120 yards on the ground yesterday against Tennessee Tech. And, that's kind of been the formula for success for Tennessee State winning ball games, big bruising offensive line and getting those running backs coming in behind them. So that was pretty good to see that. And Rockmont, I believe, had a huge game for Tennessee State as well. He had over 100 yards receiving. So I think what that win does, it does bolster Jackson State standings, if you will, when you kind of start examining those poll rankings a little bit more. So great win by Tennessee State yesterday. Yeah,
it intrigued for me when you look at Tennessee State, and they kind of mirror what Coach Eddie George played in college at Ohio State. They really like to enforce their will, play to the run, and then they'll do some play action, get the wide receivers in there as they kind of pound you. But I like the fact that they play for 4 quarters. So they keep it close, give themselves a chance to win, especially where they are with talent-wise. But you also talked about what I asked you was Tennessee State and Jackson State. Getting into that in terms of SWAC and MEAC as we get prepared to close out, talk a little bit about first South Carolina State getting on the win as they pound Morgan State 38-14, and they go on their conference strength to see what they're doing. Obviously, everybody's eye is on Norfolk State and potentially South Carolina traveling to Norfolk State in terms of basically that final game, but you do have some games in between there. For example, you have Norfolk State and Howard this week after they got the win over Morgan State. But this week is South Carolina State pounding Morgan State 38-14. And then you had that top 10 matchup with Jackson State getting it done at homecoming. That same thought process there over number 7 Alabama State team, 28-7. If you would, sticking with you, Charles, talk about those 2 games out of the SWAC and the MEAC for the games of the week.
Yeah, really kind of surprising with regards to Morgan. I did expect South Carolina State to win that ball game, but just Morgan just has not been able to put up much of a fight from an offensive standpoint. It is really watching paint dry when you watch Morgan State football. Jackson State and Alabama State, and you know, it's almost I asked Coach Prime in post-game press conference. It's almost rinse and repeat week in, week out for Jackson State. Defense pretty much chokes you out from running the football, and it makes you one-dimensional. And that's pretty much what happened yesterday with regards to Jackson State and Alabama State. And it's just a matter of when. When does the Jackson State offense kind of kick into gear? We saw them have a commitment to the run game yesterday. Santee Marshall had 24 carries for 96 yards, but overall, Jackson State went over 100 yards running the ball yesterday. But again, that defense sort of controls the game. And that was one of the big things that you kind of take away from that. You know, I thought Alabama State tried to stay committed to the run, but there was just nothing much there. Ezra Gray and Corey Merritt both couldn't get up and going, and you pin the hopes on the quarterback, Miles Crowley, who did make some plays in that game. But just overall, Jackson State's defense is just so tough in terms of what they're able to get done, and they really hold the fort down until the offense really gets going. And on a side note, Santee Marshall, huge game yesterday, 96 yards rushing, but Coach Prime, there was a huge scene in the post-game locker room, awarded a full scholarship to Santee Marshall. So that was a great scene to see that young man go from walk-on to full scholarly. So, and they talked a little bit about that in the post-game press conference as well.
Man, I appreciate you sharing that insight. And you can go check on Instagram at Charles to go see the behind the scenes. Look when they actually made that announcement. I'm sure that's coming. Shout out to those talking about your paint dry comment. But with that, let me shift to AD Drew in terms of those 2 matchups in the SWAC. It was top 10 matchup. Number 7 Alabama State hit the road against number 1. As you know the score there, but you had South Carolina, the Bulldogs hosting Morgan State. Talk about those 2 games, if you would, Drew.
I'm going to be honest with you. I thought Jackson State was going to put up a few more points against Alabama State coming into this game. You know, Jackson State is on the revenge tour, as people like to say, and we all know what Alabama State did to Coach Prime last year. So,
credit to Alabama State though. That defense really played well in the first half.
And that's what I was going to get to. You know, Jackson State was on a mission to put their foot on Alabama State's throat, and Alabama State hung around that game longer than most people would have thought they would have been able to hang around that particular game. Now, shifting over to the MEAC, South Carolina State is almost becoming an afterthought with that poor non-conference record that they have. And in the MEAC, we've got, as Mike likes to say, we have 2 data points in the MEAC. Both of them are against Morgan State. Morgan State is the 125th ranked team out of 126 teams in FCS, i.e., the data is skewed. The curve is busted right now when you compare what these 2 teams have done against Morgan State. You might get a data point this week when South Carolina State takes on Howard, but the spreadsheet is still incomplete.
Great point. I'm glad that you put a period on that. Let me go to you, Mike, for the last one here. Break down these two matches of the MEAC and SWAC. I know you get into the data points, so I'm sure in a lot of ways you agree with Drew that says that those data points against Morgan State is not going to make you smile. But you also got a chance. You were there live. You were in the mix. And so you got to see Jackson State between the top 10 matchup, Alabama State and Jackson State. Talk about both of those, if you would, please.
Yeah, let me start with the Bulldogs. I didn't give much credence to that game because Morgan, they're in the cellar in terms of rushing. I don't even know if I call that a data point. He's right. That is skewed. Seriously. You watch Morgan say they can't run, they can't pass the ball. So you expected the Bulldogs to come out victorious. And I hope that's not surprising. It is somewhat of a data point, but I think you'll see more of a data point, as Drew AD mentioned, when they go against Howard next week. So we'll see what they can do, because Howard does have somewhat of an efficient offense, or effective offense, I'll say. With regards to the game, tremendous game by Jackson State in the second half. I thought they were going to put up more points. Credit, and I think CB was saying, to Alabama State's defense. We're sitting in that game. We were up in the press conference, and we were like, when is Jackson State going to turn it on? It was 7-7 going in the half. They played a great game. But then I don't know what Dion or Coach Prime said in halftime. They kind of turned it up a notch or two or three in the third and fourth quarter. But that defense, it controlled pretty much the whole game. So I will say they have a beast, Jackson State. And I think number 7, the receiver, Corbin. Dude is a beast. Get the ball. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, to your point, I think the thing that that comes out was there was never any panic whatsoever.
No.
You mentioned it was 7-7 at halftime, but there wasn't a rah-rah speech. It was basically, you know what you need to do. And, there's a sort of quiet, confident swagger that I don't think everybody gets a chance to see with regards to this football team. And it was very calm, very, just workmanlike, like, listen, turn it up a notch. And Coach Prime mentioned that. He thought the practices going into Thursday, Friday were very lackluster, and they seemingly turned it up a notch at the end of the week. And he figured that was going to be the case with regards to this game. Homecoming being what it is, yada, yada, yada. But guys just seem to some type of way, flip the switch and go from maybe 8 to 10 in the second half. And that's essentially what happened in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. But this Corbin isn't he I believe he's a transfer from U of H. Is that the one?
Yeah, Keith Corbin. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my, this kid is, if he's not the best by the end of the year, one of the best receivers in the SWAC, I don't know what we're looking at. We're looking at the wrong data points. I saw some snatches and catches that this kid made, and he was unbelievable. But the defense to me was the player of the game. They never, you never felt that Jackson State was in trouble, even though it was 7-7 going into halftime. You just never felt that way. Right. So, and if you allow me, game day experience at Jackson State, and I'm comparing it to a lot of other data points. Tremendous. The way the announcer kept the crowd involved throughout the entirety of the game. I know you didn't ask that, Doc, but tremendous.
No, I'm glad you're sharing it.
I've seen a lot of games, but that game day experience blew me away, from the way they ran the halftime show to the music selection. He kept the old and the young integrated into the entire game. There are a couple of other schools that can take note of the way Jackson State shares that and puts on a game day experience.
Wow, big statement. And that's coming for our resident traveler. So he's going to let you know. And when he talks about that, he's not just talking about HBCU sports culture. He's talking about what we call the Power Five, because he sees that as well. Him and another brother, Edwin Drayden, that is able to see things in the Pac-12, but SEC, ACC, Big Ten. Mike has seen it all, even the Big 12, in terms of over the last couple of years. So the consulting work that we do with THG Agency, what we bring to you when we talk about the business side, obviously we're attaching it to the HBCU sports culture, what we call the sporting HBCU diaspora. but we have context in terms of business things that we see across all fields. So we like to share it. Shout out to the lab listeners out there getting it done. As we come to a close, let me tell you about some games we'll discuss this week. You had at Ottawa, out of Arizona, as Langston is on the road to an undefeated team. That should be intriguing. We did tease out a little bit about the Howard-Norfolk game, Washington, D.C. That is Howard's homecoming. Keep your eyes on that. Then we had a big matchup, Kentucky State and Miles College. A.D. Drew has always told you about watching Kentucky State as they get it done. He's told you early about that, and it looks like this will be an intriguing one to see who comes out, or at least get that early little niche of the West Division of the SIC. Back to the CIAA, we have a Shaw Johnson C. Smith. We're keeping our eyes on Shaw to see what that looks like. I'm not saying that this should be any type of trouble, but the big game in the CIAA is in the Northern Division. That's Virginia Union and Bowie State. While you have Johnson C. Smith on the road at Shaw and Durham, you have Bowie State on the road again in Richmond, which makes this just a little more interesting after Virginia Union got that big win. The big one that we teased out very early is Albany State and Savannah State. Top 5 matchup out of the SIC. You got to have your eyes on that. We'll continue to see what South Carolina State does as they go on the road. It is homecoming in Delaware. So Delaware State has a chance to make an early statement. They've won 3 in a row. They had a week off. Can they get it done against South Carolina State, what everybody thinks is the team that's going to come out of there? Oh, wait a minute. We do have Norfolk State. With that being said, as we go to the Tidewater area, Virginia area, you have Hampton hosting North Carolina A&T. Can A&T get right, or will Hampton get a chance to make a statement? The HBCU matchup in the Big South is to be seen. It's a game to watch out. The last one, the big one that everybody will have their eyes on, in my opinion, is in Baton Rouge. You have Prairie View going on the road to Southern. This is a top 10 matchup. I'll leak that a little bit as I have run the numbers. Southern will jump in the top 10. So this becomes a top 10 matchup that we will talk about this week. It is Southern's homecoming, Columbia Blue Day, as they like to say in those areas. Can Prairie View come in and make their early statement in terms of really transfixing the Western Division of the SWAC, or will Southern do what they do? Keep your eyes on this matchup. We had Coach Dooley in and talked a little bit about it. He admitted this is a big game. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues, especially our lab listeners. Shout out to you all. Appreciate all the texts. I see you all getting into it in the comments. Big time. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop, and A.D. Drew, guesting and priding that football analyst as he does. Again, we hope you enjoyed our interview with Prairie View A&M University coach Eric Dooley, sharing some thoughts in terms of the game against Bethune-Cookman and the upcoming matchup against Southern. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Ville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. And you know what we do on Sunday right before church to get you going at 9 a.m. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil. That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You know, subscribe, like Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, both on Facebook and Twitter. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Drew?
Of course.
Mike?
Lecture.
Charles?
Dismissed.
Appreciate y'all.